All right, hello everybody. Peter here once again. We've got another sketchbook tour, but it's a little bit different this time because it's not my sketchbook. This sketchbook right here is by Scott Teplin, and I'm happy to say I've got him here on the line to help walk us through his own sketchbook. Scott, are you there?
I'm here. Hi.
Hey, Scott. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you could be here, and thank you very much for. I mean, you sent this sketchbook to me in the mail. I think that's really scary. Not to send a sketchbook to another artist, but just to put a sketchbook in the mail. That's terrifying to me. But you did it.
Yeah, I have so many of these at this point. It is a little scary, but I figure if someone else gets a chance to look through it, then it's worth a little risk of mailing it out, because otherwise it sits closed on my shelf, and that's kind of, sad.
That's true. That's a good attitude to go at it with, I think. So, I mean, it says up here, bound January 2016, EFA NYC. What does that mean? So you bound it yourself?
So I cut the paper, and I choose the paper, and that's I think that's a rice paper, that pink stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I cut the boards, and I sew it all together myself, because I'm super rough with my sketchbooks, and I also like to occasionally watercolor on them. And if I know how it's bound, I know it's gonna stay together after I'm done. It takes these take me about a year, depends on how thick it is to complete.
Right.
And so
What is this monogram here? How did you do that?
So that's called debossing, and all it is, and I actually have a video of me showing how this is done, where when I'm binding the book, when it's just a simple board, I draw that little T, and I take that drawing and I glue it onto a thicker piece of watercolor paper. Then I cut that out really carefully with an X-Acto knife. I glue that over the board, and then when I'm binding the book together, I carefully glue the book cloth, or I usually use leather, around the form that is protruding from the cardboard.
Oh, I like that a lot. It's very subtle and cool. I like that.
It helps because it's hard to find the front of the book right away, because I don't usually have much else on there. So it helps to instantly recognize the front and the back.
I like that. So you do a lot of really, if no one's ever seen your work before, definitely go check it out. There's links in the description and everything. You've got a YouTube channel, crazy website, Instagram, and people will definitely see you've got this distinct style of weird, wacky, bulbous, like watercolor, but also even given away here in this little monogram, you've got, what is it, like isometric stuff you do as well. Mm-hmm. And as we go through, you see this, you work in the sketchbook to kind of feel out ideas, and then I'll edit in some final pieces that you've worked on from these.
Right.
Yeah.
So I typically just either I have an idea I'm working through, or I feel like I haven't drawn in a while, so I need to sit down and spend some time in my book, and I'll just listen to a podcast or music and just start seeing whatever comes out, and then that can turn into something bigger, larger, or just stay in my sketchbook and sort of simmer for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fine either way. Now, I'm going to be honest. When I saw this piece and the finished pieces you made from it, I was actually really inspired by that, and I have a piece of my own, which I ended up making like a weird, wacky, I keep saying weird, wacky, I don't know, because I think I just like the two W words, but I made my own kind of weird, was like a diagram cross-section of a human, and I added a bunch of, I don't know, I made my own.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. That's great.
Inspired me to make one like that, yeah.
I mean, when I was younger, my father was a surgeon, and I used to collect, and I still do collect, vintage surgical manuals that had drawings instead of photos in them, and I love seeing inside of stuff. Like, that's sort of the basis for everything that I do, is learning how it works and getting to see inside of it. And a lot of, like whenever you have a medical problem, I'll sometimes try and figure it out on my own, what's happening inside my body and what makes something do whatever. And so even though I know it's wrong, it sometimes just makes me laugh to imagine this is happening.
Like this. Yeah, I guess.
Right, it's like an explodey face. So earlier in the book was a sort of a self-portrait of myself, and I did these triptych portraits of one face over time, and that time period would be like a face exploding, but it would be over 1/1000th of a second as it explodes. So, and there'd only be 3 pictures. So this is the 3rd picture of it, of the face sort of coming apart.
I like that. Yeah.
Just like you get to see what's inside and imagine what's there and stuff. And one of my favorite things about anatomical books is how if you've ever dissected anything, it's just a big shiny red mess of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But medical illustrators, it's so cool how they use lines and they select certain things to show, and it's so clear and descriptive that it would never look like that in real life. And I like how they sort of parse everything out.
Definitely. It is. Yeah, they refine it down into those basic lines and shapes. And one thing I really like also, besides all that, is the way you get these perfect washes with your watercolors.
Yeah, that's just part of it's using the correct paper, using good watercolor paper that's sized internally and externally, and knowing how much water's on your brush.
Yeah, I guess that just comes with time and doing it a lot, huh? Just a lot of practice.
Yeah. And just free for all. Just you see in the upper right, I test the colors of the page.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like the way that looks too. I like showing. My work sometimes is so clean and sort of sterile, not sterile, but too clean. So I like to show that it's a drawing, and so you can see the little. Like in the upper right of, yeah, exactly. I'm pointing to the page, and you just happen to point exactly where I was pointing. I like to show that it's a drawing and remind people that this is a human hand who made this.
Mm-hmm. And now these are some fun shapes here you've got going on. The whole donut thing, that's kind of a long-standing thing that you've had going on for a while, isn't it?
Yeah, and I love how disgusting and wonderful they are at the same time. It's like a perfect push and pull for me, and it's also a great object for me to draw and test sort of your imagination and your skills with lines, just to see how you can manipulate a line to make it do so many different weird little things. So if I'm on this page, if I'm concentrating on just a ball, then what else can happen with that ball, and you just kind of give yourself little challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually I'll just go in with watercolor. I'm like, I feel like doing pink today, and I'll just pick a page, and the frosting is usually pink because that is like the most delicious, most disgusting color for donut icing, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, here's a bunch more. And here you were working on ideas for your big school project.
Right. Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to come up with a little logo for. I do these huge, like 7-foot wide isometric drawings of interior spaces like rooms, and I did a giant school, and I do Kickstarter campaigns to sort of pay for the printing of the poster, and I was working out the logo for Big School here.
Yeah, you do a lot of really big ones. You just like staple the papers to the wall and stuff, or what?
Yeah. I unroll a giant roll of watercolor paper that I like, and then I stretch it. You have to stretch rolls of watercolor paper, and I just work on it right on the wall.
I'm zooming in on this a little bit. Just scroll over it. It's really cool.
So the isometric stuff that I do, it's the hardest part for these giant drawings done isometrically are for them to make sense spatially. And so what I thought would be fun to do is try to purposely make them make no sense spatially, like an MC Escher drawing kind of does that.
Yeah.
Only he's super controlled. So I'm just doodling and practicing and seeing what happens when I play around with it in the sketchbook.
Yeah, got some Penrose stuff going on here.
Right.
Some bonsai stuff.
Yeah, that's from I became a member of the Brooklyn Botanic Garden, and I've gone crazy with botanical stuff the last couple of years.
So you're based out of New York City, or?
Right, I live in Brooklyn.
Oh, cool. That's a great area.
But
feel like.
You had asked me in the beginning, what is the EFA NYC stuff? I have had a studio in the EFA, the Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts, building in Manhattan for the past 20 years, and so that's where I found this.
Cool. Yeah, here's a lot more of the. This is. I mean, that's like how sometimes you paint a picture and then you look at your paint palette and you're like, wow, my paint palette looks so much cooler than what I actually ended up painting.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and it's a challenge sometimes with watercolor to get certain saturations and certain colors, and it's like so fun to do it in your sketchbook because there's there's no risk involved, and you get to see the history of it, and remember what you did, as like perhaps notes for in the future when you want to do it larger.
Mm-hmm.
These are all notes. The M Meltdown for there's this amazing illustrator named Dave Klock. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he does. He's a silkscreener out of LA, and he used to do all the posters for Meltdown Comics. It's a comic book shop and where comedians perform in Los Angeles. And Kumail Nanjiani and Jonah Ray, they do a show every week, and they make a new poster every week. And I was lucky enough to be asked to do a poster for one of their last shows. So these are sketches to figure out what I was going to do for their poster.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's cool to be able to see like all the different like stages and ideas you went through to reach that final stage. I like these gradients too. That's beautiful. Even just not even in a drawing, just by themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the color that's bright is the result of like between 3 to sometimes up to 60 layers of watercolor.
Wow.
You just have to let it dry and go over it again, and you have so much control, but you just have to learn the patience to get to that point.
Yeah, I definitely didn't know that. I feel like I see so much crazy great watercolor out there, and then I try it myself and just try 1 or 2 layers, and I think, wow, guess I'm doing something wrong that I'll never be able to fix, and I'm quitting now.
No, it just takes a lot of layers, I think, and also really good watercolor. If you use like watercolor with hues as opposed to pigments, you're not going to get a good result. Like student grade opposed to professional grade. This is I do alphabets sometimes, and I did the alphabet in like rooms, and I did the alphabet in donuts, and I was gonna see if I could do it in these crazy isometric shapes, but I was trying big school. I was starting with you can see the big and the S below it, but it was too abstract, and I suppose I could have worked with it a little longer, but
I'm not sure if I can tell what letter this is.
I can't either. It might have been an attempt at a B, or maybe both at once. I don't even know, but I kind of gave up on it.
No, they're cool. I mean, sometimes you can draw a letter and it doesn't even have to really look. I mean, like so much like graffiti and street art, it's so far, out there that it doesn't really matter. It's just what it is.
Becomes its own thing.
Yeah.
This is more sort of anatomical with seagrass.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I like it. This is like fatty stuff here. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, this is also just learning. I like this color palette, and I would use this particular palette in future drawings because I like what happened here. So I was like, oh, I can use that, later on when I have another, like a larger drawing.
Yeah.
I do these really big, like 7 foot tall anatomical pen and ink drawings that I watercolor.
And there are little details here in pencil, I think. Little textures and stuff. I like that. Really cool. I try
to not imagine going over in watercolor layer. I just pencil it for pencil's sake, and then I don't have any plan involved. I just kind of riff off of what's there. So some of these it's not worthy of watercolor, or I'm just too lazy.
Right, yeah. Just work it out in pencil and move on.
Yeah.
This is a face.
Yeah.
See, I have some teeth penciled in here.
I think that's actually, those are the, I think they're called the papillae. It's like the taste buds of the tongue.
I think there's like really faint teeth though that like never made it any further. I'm not sure though.
Oh, you're right, right. I can't see from this yank. You're right, you're right. And this is the Go Gopher from Google has a programming language, and a friend of mine did she created the
Oh,
character for
so
it.
this is the like the anatomical weird version of this, huh? I just realized.
No, it's no. Well, I don't even know. I don't. Maybe that is. I can't remember. I don't think so. I think it's sort of a coincidence. She asked. She had her husband is he wrote the language, and he gave a conference, and they asked for tons of artists to do their version of the Gopher. And this was I'm not good with characters. I can see now that the eyeball is on the wrong side of the ear right there on the back. I didn't even notice it before. So I just tried it, and because she's a good buddy, and her name is Renee French, and she is one of my I don't know.
Yeah.
She's one of my all-time favorite artists. She's the coolest.
I love her style. It's like so, like I don't know, fuzzy. I don't know. It's just definitely unique. Yeah.
But she's a genius because it's also super creepy at the same time, like subtly.
Yeah, it's definitely got her own special ambiance to it that I don't know how anyone could replicate that. She's definitely spent a long time getting there.
Yeah.
I love it.
She's the best. Some of these are suggestions from my kids. I think that squid in the barrel, I think my kids saw that or we were watching Futurama or something together or something. It had me draw.
I can see where a kid actually drew on it here, I think, maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's the plant from Little Shop of Horrors. Mm-hmm. Bottom left.
I mean, these are just really good pencil drawings just by themselves.
Thank you. I usually don't do pen and ink in the book because sometimes the pen, when the book is closed for long enough, will rub off on the page touching it.
Yeah.
So I usually, I don't always, like that Gopher was pen and ink because I had to scan that in later. But I typically just go pencil and watercolor in the books. So this was part of a triptych painting. This was this was my next door neighbor, Adrian. He let me do this of him. He knew what I was going to do. And so I did the first portrait of his face, and then his face getting to this point, and then this is like sort of the third.
So this is the second and third?
No, the second that's just a doodle on the left side.
Okay.
The right side was the actual one.
Yeah, I feel like if people have seen any of your drawings, they should know what they're getting into if they accept a portrait from you.
Yeah, he was cool about it. His wife, not so much, but he was cool about it.
What I think is crazy is that these are still like your sketches, and then you do like more finished pieces, right?
Right.
But I feel like a lot of people would settle with these being finished pieces. So,
I like to. One of my favorite things about seeing certain comics is seeing the artist draw the same thing over and over, and I like to force myself to draw the same thing over and over because you inevitably get bored and it changes in a weird little way that you never would have thought of unless you went through the trouble of redrawing the whole thing over again. And I love that.
Yeah. That is an interesting concept. I'm definitely guilty of avoiding drawing the same thing over and over.
I find that if you try, even if you don't know what's going to happen, something new will happen and it'll take you in a new direction. This is a good example of having no idea what I was doing when I was doing it. I just sort of, I've heard, like there's different kinds of writers. There's like architect writers who write like a novel where it's all planned out, and then gardener writers like R.R. Martin is a gardener where he just starts gardening and it just starts spreading all around and things just start to happen. And this is kind of like gardening drawing.
Love it.
Or is George R.R. Martin? That's his name?
Yeah. I don't know.
So I don't even remember what this. Oh, okay. So I had the whole alphabet drawn in rooms, like each letter is a building, and then I wanted to do 0, 1 through 9 as well. And so I was imagining if I drew each of these numbers, what would I put inside of the room? So these are sort of.
Oh, this is for
notes.
big school.
Right.
Yeah.
Notes on what I would do inside the rooms. Because You have to have it planned out a little bit, otherwise it just looks like the same bed and the same dresser in every room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ooh.
So when I watercolor at home, I always need a test sheet of watercolor so I see how much saturation and how much liquid is on the brush. I test it out before I put it on the painting that I'm doing, and I didn't have any extra paper. All I had was my sketchbook, so I just used the sketchbook to test for a larger painting I was doing at home and it just kind of turned it into this.
This is all from one painting?
Yeah.
One of those the huge ones?
No, when I work at home, I have to work pretty small, but like I said, they require so many layers that it just takes a while. Oh, this was a super fun. I don't really illustrate commercially unless it's for usually friends. And I had a friend who wrote an article for Medium.com on the future, like a funny article on the future of schools, like 37 years in this future, 97 years in the future, and 130 years in the future. And so I was doing drawings for each one of these, and I was trying to figure out what they would be. It was super fun.
Yeah, just like spacing it all out, playing with the ideas. Yeah.
Right. I think there might be a bunch of notes like that in here.
Oh yeah, here's a little more of it.
Oh, this was for Broad City. Do you ever watch that show?
No.
I love it. It's these two young women in New York City, and it's so funny. I think Amy Poehler produces it, and it takes place in their apartment, and they have this funny guy who's always hanging out in their apartment, and there was like a fan art show in LA, so I had to like watch so many episodes and keep pausing it, and so this is super accurate as to what's inside their apartment and how the layout goes. Even though, usually when you watch a sitcom, it doesn't really make sense so it didn't actually make sense, but this is as close as I could get.
Yeah, how it all fits together, because it's like in a studio, so it wouldn't actually all work. Yeah.
And it was like a crazy challenge, which is I'll never do it again because it was a pain in the butt, but I loved doing it for the first time because it was hard.
That's true. That's true fandom right there. I like it. So here we've got. Were you on vacation here or something?
Yeah. So my family goes on this vacation. There's this like island. It's like a family camp where it's 10 miles off the coast of Maine and New Hampshire. Have you ever heard of Smutty Nose?
No.
I think that they make a beer. Anyway, it's called the Isle of Shoals, and this is called Star Island, one of the islands. And there's this big house. You can see the house there on the upper right. And just families go and hang out, and adults kind of do their thing, and kids have like summer camp, and we all eat together. And I never do draw from life ever, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to learn to do this better, because I hadn't really done it since my junior year in college, back in the mid 90s, early 90s. So I do it every year now in my sketchbooks, and I love it.
I think it turned out great. It's got its own ambiance and everything.
Thanks.
A little more here.
And they have a bio lab where there's like for the kids, like a science lab with like big tanks with lobsters and all the stuff that lives in the water around the island. And so there's like an old crab claw, and it's fun to go there too, draw stuff.
I love how these bushes look so much like the fat you draw in the other diagrams.
Yeah,
they're just green.
Right. Oh my God, I was obsessed for a while. I don't know if you remember. There's this big thing about clowns, creepy clowns hanging out in forests.
Yes.
For like a couple years ago.
Yes.
And I thought it'd be, what did that say? Oh,
this says Dr. Clownoscopy. Clonoscopy?
Oh yeah, clonoscopy. Right. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. Something about a clown who gives you a clonoscopy and like his like fake ambulance, or I don't know. I think I did a big finished drawing of this somewhere. I just like drawing bulgy eyeballs, I think. Oh, see, there's a little bit. Yeah. Oh, and there's do you know who Matt Fury is? He drew the original Pepe the Frog as a cool, chill frog. It's just like a fun comic book,
Uh-huh.
and I guess I don't want to delve into this, but the alt-right kind of took it over, and they use it on 4chan as their symbol. And he was trying to get the Pepe the Frog back, so he asked a bunch of artists to redraw Pepe as the cool, chill frog that he is. And so this is my Pepe that I drew, or the sketch for it.
To save Pepe.
Yeah, because he's not a hateful frog. He's cool. Anyway, that's another. Remember those old TV antennas on cars that looked like boomerangs?
Yeah, they used to be on the back of like every big van ever, and on limos.
Right, limos. Yeah. I don't know. If I laugh while I'm doing it, I'll just keep doing it. And I just thought this was.
I like this
hilarious.
pupil vacuum too.
Yeah,
it makes me very uneasy. I love it. Just that slightly uneasy thing there. I like you ride the edge of that perfectly. It's like satisfying, but also makes you uneasy.
This is yeah, that's so. Going back to Renee French, hers has a similar thing. That's why I love her work so much. And these, she draws these awesome creature from the Black Lagoon, but as kind of cute, sad guys.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just thinking about her drawings, and then this is totally 100% influenced by her.
Yeah, I definitely recognize that style of mouth right there.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to apologize.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I like horror movies too, and I like how, like Trauma, remember those old Trauma movies, Toxic Avenger, and how ridiculous they are and gory, and so I like to draw some of the ridiculous gore too, like silly gore, right? Like how chopped head could also be like a salami, like I had a psychiatrist ask me to draw a donut for his waiting room, for art for his waiting room. Oh, yeah. So this was the sketch for that. Like, like on a chaise lounge.
Mm-hmm.
Working out different donut ideas.
Work them out, flesh them out.
Yeah.
Love them. Oh, here's a bunch more. This is a nice gradient here. Just it's subtle, just across this page. Now, when you do this, is the whole back of this wet the whole time you do that?
No, I almost never ever work wet on wet. I go wet watercolor onto totally dry paper. And then I wait for it to dry again before I go over it again. I have a hairdryer sometimes just so that it will dry the paper quicker. But normally what I do, because I work in so many layers, I'll work on at least one, sometimes 5 watercolors at this exact same time. Because by the time I finish one part of one, another part is dry, and I can...
Yeah, just so you don't have to sit around waiting all the time.
This was I have a series of tons of teachers from memory that I draw. Renee does it too. I do it with Renee. We send drawings back and forth to each other. And these are specific teachers, mostly from middle school or elementary school, that I just draw their portrait from memory.
Yeah, I love this. How it's so. I think we all have the same thing where we see one person and they have like just some tiny little blemish in their skin, but it just gets caught up in our head, and that's like all we see.
Right.
It's just
right. And it's also what I really enjoy is making. I know that it's flat, it's paper, it's a 2-dimensional drawing, but you just kind of, with these simple little tricks, you can add like a little 3D feeling. You're not literally tricking someone, but your mind just knows this goes back and this comes forward. I love that in drawing.
Yeah, it definitely works. I feel like I could stick my finger in that little...
Yeah.
Yeah, so here you're planning them all out.
Right.
More of that. Miss Hacker.
Yeah, she was a computer. She gave me my first detention I ever had. 7th grade.
What does that say? tooth pulp.
Yeah, I don't know. Teeth. I have teeth. I think a lot of people have, when they have a lot of anxiety, they have dreams about their teeth, and when I'm anxious or stressed out, I have crazy teeth dreams, and I draw a lot. Renee does too. We draw teeth together a lot. Um, I yeah, I don't know. I think about teeth too often.
I think I just have anxious dreams when I think about teeth, and it might be the
Yeah,
other way
that's
around.
the chicken or the egg.
Are these all Trump here? Even these are caricatures?
I don't. Maybe I don't even know.
I like the color scheme on this, though.
Thank you. Oh, this was my son goes to an arts middle school called New Voices, and I was working out a new sweatshirt design for them.
Yeah, this is a struggle with working with pencil and sketchbooks, is it gets everywhere.
Oh, you know what's funny? I just realized that the solid S in the middle of the left page, I used that drawing and cut and glued it to a piece of watercolor paper and cut it out, and that's the debossment of the sketchbook that I'm working in now.
This one right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a crisp one. I like that. It's a stomach?
Yes. I have acid reflux, so I think about what's going on down there a lot. And I ride my bike from Brooklyn to my studio in Manhattan, and I see these awesome tugboats all the time in the East River. Or yeah, that's the East River, and I love those. The tires look like donuts, and they're cute, but they're powerful, and I got really obsessed with them for a summer, and I was drawing tons of tugboats.
No, they are unique vehicles, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're cool. Yeah, they are unique. Each one has its own personality, and I imagined that how cool it would be if so they always use these tires, and I like that they recycle the tires for the sides of the boat. But I thought how funny it would be if you came up with an imaginary company that made tires just for tugboats, and they were pink or something. So I bought some steel road sign. You can buy blank steel road signs, and I used enamel paint, and I imagined this company called TU. I think if you turn the page, I might have.
Oh yeah, there's Doppler.
Yeah, so that's when I was coming up with the idea. I think further on you'll see TUUG with an umlaut or something like that. And I don't know.
I like the big comfy chair in the front of this one. Those waves are awesome too.
But these were sketches I made into really big drawings too. Oh, how dumb would it be if you had headphones that look like giant ears?
I don't know. Do you think those exist?
They probably do.
They probably do. Probably on Sky Mall or something.
I've seen those motorcycle helmets that look like a bald
head. Yeah. Oh, that one's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of. It's fun to that's another thing where it's fun to draw something flat, but just by changing the angle, you get a whole feeling for this dimension.
Yeah, definitely. You have a very good. You're very good at that. That's definitely something I need to work. I mean, I'm always trying to, I never took any art classes or anything, so by default everything I draw is really flat. So I'm definitely working at making everything, go into or out of the paper and stuff like that. It's
a really fun challenge.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it in this sketchbook.
Yeah, that's it.
So
sometimes I'm so scared of being without a sketchbook that I'll have a new one ready, and I'll be so excited to start the new one that I'll maybe skip the last couple pages in my old one.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sending this sketchbook over so we could look through it, Scott. That was awesome.
I'm a huge fan of yours. My kids and I watch your channel, and I'm so excited to be talking about this with you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So y'all, if you just y'all check out Scott's stuff. There's so many links down in the description. I'm sure y'all love it. He has videos, Instagrams, probably all sorts of cool things you can buy with his stuff on it. So go check it out. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. See y'all later. See you later, Scott, and bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.